everybody knows all guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 are brought to us by our beer of choice, official beer of ZASLOW Show 2.0. Johnny Cuba, European roots with a Caribbean soul, a refreshing German lager in a can. You pick up a six-pack right now. Sedano's, Presidente, Winn-Dixie, of course, one of our newest sponsors, Broward Meat and Fish. You get yourself a six-pack. That's how you enjoy a relaxing evening. Remember, always drink responsibly. And don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Speaking of stay tranquilo, a very tranquilo guest here joining us for the first time on ZASLOW Show 2.0 is our pal, John Boog Sciambi. How about this, Boog? We get to see each other now when we talk to each other on the radio program. Hello.
I love this. How are you, buddy?
How about that? This is the one, I say this to everybody. This is the one good thing that came out of the COVID. We get to do the radio, the podcast, television, sports talk shows. We get to do it all now via the Zoom, and it's so convenient now, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
So good, so good. So you're going into what year now with the Cubs? Is this 2 or 3?
Year 3. Yeah.
Year 3. All right. Well,
yep.
I want to ask you a few things on baseball. All right, because baseball's got a fun little buzz to it, I think, right now because of some of the rules changes. But first, the tournament. All right, the Canes. I want to get some thoughts here because I'm not sitting here like I'm some type of expert. Isn't it funny though? On days like today, you put on local radio, wherever it is, or it could be podcasts like me, and all of a sudden,
everybody's an expert.
The hosts who haven't watched more than 10 minutes of college basketball, they complain about who got snubbed, who got left out. It's an annual tradition.
It's amazing. The other thing that's so funny, I always like to point out, like the same coaches that bemoan today's society for everybody gets a participation trophy, complain that they couldn't get into a tournament that has 68 teams in it. Everybody gets a trophy. There's not enough competition. And you couldn't be one of the 68 teams to get in? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Now, for you're doing college basketball on ESPN. You're dialed in. I'm not dialed in. You're dialed in. Is it too many teams now? Like it's 68. Like does it take anything away that it's 68 as opposed to 64 like it was for so many years?
No. 4 extra teams? Absolutely not. No, I don't. I mean, look, it's still a great event. I think the one thing I worry about a little bit is with the transfer portal, and and this is not to imply that I want it to change, but one of the unintended consequences of the transfer portal is that, I think part of how, the Butlers of the world, the mid-majors that would make those Cinderella runs were able to do it is because they would have older, more experienced players.
Yeah.
And they go up against maybe more talented but less experienced high major Power 5 teams. Well, now those mid-major guys all go and transfer to Power 5 schools. So now you have teams like Texas that have, 5 or 6 guys who are 22 and older. And
the Canes are like that. That's been a Larinaga thing for a few years.
No doubt. So now the Power 5 teams don't just have the talent, but they have the experience as well. So I think this Miami team is a really good team. I think they're a Final 8 caliber type team. They're really good.
Some Canes fans are a little bit upset that they didn't get Orlando. I was holding out hope that they were going to get to be in Orlando for the first and second round this coming week. Of course, they're being sent to Albany. Duke is going to Orlando. They're both 5 seeds, but for me, I don't have an issue with it because if you're going to get sent somewhere so close to home, you got to be like at least a 2 or a 3, right?
Yeah. But what? Because you didn't want them to travel? Like, it's not like they're going to go to Orlando and there'll be 8 bazillion Canes fans at those things, I
don't know. I was going to get in the car with my son. We were going to go. And if we were going to do that, there had to be other Canes fans who were going to do the same, right?
Yeah.
Watsco Center the last few games, they're packing that baby in, Boog. Canes fans are excited. Listen, Boog, It's a
They're
basketball.
allowed to be excited, Zaz, though. I just wouldn't say that there's that many of them.
It's a basketball school. How about that?
Oh, good Lord.
It is. Hey, look at the success of the basketball program the last few years. Awesome, right?
Yes.
Awesome. This Canes team, they were regional final last year, first time in school history, I believe. And so you think, I mean, I don't know. You look at this, you look at the draw, like they're in Houston's bracket. They would face potentially Indiana, then Houston after that. Do you know much about this Houston team?
Well, the kid Sasser got hurt yesterday. He's their best player. Or it wasn't yesterday, it was Saturday. We'll see if he's 100%. I think Kansas should have been the 1 overall seed, and I know others felt that way. But yeah, Houston's. I mean, they're good. They haven't played the level of competition that some of the other high major schools have played.
So we're super. I mean, look, I got buddies who are huge Canes fans. They've been excited about this team all year. And there's a fun little buzz about the Canes right now. So again, for folks who are listening now, you haven't seen the schedule. They're playing on Friday night. They got Drake, of course. You know what's a fun thing? I was explaining to my older son Corey yesterday. He's 14 now. He's going into high school next year. What do you think about that? So I was explaining to him yesterday because he's into the tournament, and he's also into gambling. So I'm teaching him right. And so he likes keeping track of that kind of stuff. And so I'm explaining how the tournament works to him, which is a cool little thing to be able to do with him, where I'm like, okay, there are X amount, like I said, there are 30. I think maybe there are 32 conferences, but I was like, all right, so there's 30 conferences. And even the little ones, see, that's the beauty of the tournament, right? Is that even the smallest little conference, they get to play for the championship. So I was explaining that to him. And that's a fun little thing that I get to experience now with him, where I get to teach him about what this tournament's about,
And then what? He's going to play like teasers and parlays, or what are we doing?
He likes knowing the lines on all the games. Yes, he likes parlays. He doesn't know so much about teasers yet, all right, but he likes parlays. And I'm like, dude, parlays, it's hard enough to win one bet. You're trying to win two together. It's parlays. Right. It's impossible.
Wait for the fence, man.
It's impossible. So anyway, so we got the tournament this week. Tournament's going to be fun. Are you big into the play-in games? You usually dialed into those Tuesday and Wednesday night. You like those?
I mean, I will watch them. It's funny. The one thing that's happened to me over the last few years is I think because I do the Big 12, and you pour into the quarters and the semis and the championship, and then I just sort of exhale, and then I turn my attention to baseball. So like the last, I don't even know how many years, I don't think I picked a bracket in probably like 7 years.
I didn't last year for the first time in like forever.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Like, we're old. Is that what that means?
I think it's just, I saw like a meme the other day that I'm at that age that if I lie down, I'll just see you tomorrow.
I hear you, man. That was me last year. I didn't fill out a bracket for the first time. And you know what? I didn't really care. I was like, all right. I missed it this year. Not that big a deal. Really strange. Hey, I want to ask you a few things about baseball.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I was talking to our pal Jesse Agler from the Padres a couple of weeks ago. And I'll say the same thing to you. I feel like there's a fun little buzz about Major League Baseball right now that maybe it hasn't had at the start of the season at spring training, that it hasn't had maybe in a few years. With people like me. I mean, obviously, our hardcore baseball fans are super excited when spring training rolls around. But, I'm interested to see what this game looks like now at the start of the season, because everything I've seen so far in spring training seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to look a bit more like what it used to look like, where it's just going to move more. And I think that's what it needs. It's just the three things in concert, which are the ball not being in play as much, too much time between pitches, and then the game's taking too long. Those three together, I think, have been kind of deadly for interest in the sport. I think, moving the pace along is what it needs. You want to shorten the game, but baseball has this thing you either know it or you don't. But you can have a 3-hour game that feels like a 4-hour game, and you can have a 3-hour game that feels like a 2-hour game, and that has everything to do with the pace inside of it. And I think that these rules, especially the pitch clock, I think that's the one that'll really have the biggest impact. But I think that the pitch clock is really going to move things along and advocate for base stealing and more athleticism. So I think overall it's going to be good. There's not going to be a real negative to it. I think it just, how fast do you want it to get?
Has there been a big adjustment for you, for broadcasters?
I mean, again, it's where, they were playing games like this. You go back and look at, highlights of games in the early 90s, and they were moving quickly. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we haven't, I did Mark Burley and Roy Halladay starts. I know what this stuff is like. I think that the bigger adjustment is not for the on-air people, it's for the producers, because in the local and even national world, just everything's sponsored. And the reads are long, and you just don't have the space for it. So I think the greater challenge is on the producers. Can we fit this here or not? To me, yes, we have to be, the broadcasters need to go back to being more efficient, but I still maintain this, that if the rules changing has a positive impact on what's taking place on the field, it'll have a positive impact on our job. So, if what we're watching gets better, then our broadcasts will be better, period.
Were you in favor of the rule changes with the shift? And the next part of that question, I think it was the Red Sox, where they found the loophole with bringing the left fielder over to the short right field. Is MLB going to do something about that, or is that going to be okay?
No, I would say that'll be okay because, it's risk versus reward. They're going to take an outfielder. That's not a loophole. That's what, I mean, it's the risk of you're going to stop a single, but you're risking 2 or 3 bases.
So why would they, you're right. Why would they risk that then?
Well, I would say you're not going to see many teams risk that, is what I like. That is not a play you're going to see very frequently, in my opinion. So I think that in terms of the shift, look, at this point, I kind of just waved the flag on what the fans want. Fans don't like the shift. They don't like how it looks, etc. I will say that my reaction and the problem that I have with this rule is it just feels like it's penalizing smart. So, you're positioning the defenders where the guy hits the ball. What's the difference between that and this guy can't hit a slider and now you're not allowed to throw him sliders? It just sort of seems like it's penalizing. Yeah, this is where he hits the ball. Now you're allowed to put the defender where they hit the ball. I mean, so that it just fundamentally that bothers me. But I also would say this is not going to impact the game in a marked way. The game is not about singles, hasn't been about singles. It'll impact the game with guys who hit from the left side that are real pull hitters. You're going to see some more singles, but it's not going to impact scoring in some drastic way because you're still going to be in a sport where the swing and miss is going to be king. It's too hard to get that many hits in a row. And the way teams are going to score is by the extra base hit.
Are you super excited about the start of NFL free agency this afternoon, Boog?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Can you name a single free agent?
No.
You see the Dolphins, though. Dolphins winning the offseason.
Did they just trade for? Did they just trade for somebody?
Jalen Ramsey. He's the best. He's probably third best cornerback in the NFL. It's awesome. It's very exciting.
Who was the guy that was the good cornerback? He was the best quarterback, and then the Redskins traded for him.
Are you thinking of Nnamdi Asomugha? No, that was when the Eagles traded for him, and he wasn't any good anymore. No, Jalen Ramsey went from the Jaguars to the Redskins. You got to be careful with that word. They're now called the Commanders. And then the Rams and now the Dolphins. So you may be thinking of Jalen Ramsey. You may be thinking of him. He was there for like a year. Yeah.
Who was the guy that Dan did the handshake with, but it was really awkward?
Oh, yes.
Who am I thinking of?
I know who you're thinking of. He was a really good cornerback.
And then he wasn't.
Well, these guys drop off after like 3 years. They fall off a cliff, you know? Like I was explaining to my son, my son asked me yesterday, who do you think is the greatest athlete, professional athlete you've ever seen? And so the first two that come to my mind, it's always Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders. And so I'm trying to explain to him about Deion. And I'm like, you see all these cornerbacks now, they're good for like 3 or 4 years. Revis, Richard Sherman, Nnamdi Asomugha, even a guy like Xavier Howard on the Dolphins, who had a big drop-off last year. Deion was the best for like a dozen years. That never happens anymore.
No. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. So, all right. So you're super pumped about NFL free agency. I could see it in your eyes. I'm going to leave it at that. You said it all. How about the Heat? Are you super excited about the Heat right now? Can you tell me a fact about the Heat?
Eric Spoelstra's still their coach.
He's still very good. He's a very good coach.
Yeah. He's a good coach.
He's a great coach, Boog.
Yeah.
He's a great – he'll be the Hall of Fame. He's a great coach.
He's a good coach.
You know that, right? He's a lock for the Hall of Fame.
Is he a lock for the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. Now, Dwayne Wade is a finalist for the Hall of Fame coming up this summer. Do you think he will make it? First ballot.
Are you kidding? Are you serious?
Of course I'm kidding. All right, so you think he's in?
Yeah, I think he's in.
Finally here, Boog. I know you didn't watch the Oscars last night. I'm going to get to look at Oscars here on my show. I know you didn't watch any of the Oscars. What are you watching streaming-wise right now? What's passing the time for Boog these days on the plane or in your house? Or have you finished Netflix?
I got to the end of Netflix. No, I just finished Welcome to Wrexham.
Oh, you know what? I asked about that on Twitter a few weeks ago. I feel like I'm missing out. It's like I didn't get it. I didn't understand what it was. And now I realized, this is a real thing. So I should watch it.
Really, really good. Really good. Yeah.
All right.
Well done. Both guys, McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds, very likable.
I didn't think it was a real thing, but it is a real thing.
You're dope.
What do you mean? I'm supposed to know immediately that Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney really bought a soccer club. That's a comedy. That's a TV show. So I didn't realize it was a real thing. Yeah.
Except they did.
You know, Ted Lasso's debuting next week. Are you into Ted Lasso?
Love Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso's amazing.
What a show.
Ted Lasso's I mean, I'm like everybody else. You know how you have those friends that are like, when they pound on you, they're like, you got to watch this show. Yeah. Then you get some resentment and you're like, I hate that show because people are asking you. And I know some people get that way with Ted Lasso. Get over it.
Yeah.
Like if you're not in on Ted Lasso, we can't be friends. How's that?
When I finally got around to Ted Lasso, I mean, it was like a year and a half ago, 5 minutes into the show, like the start of the show, and they're on the plane, the two coaches, Ted Lasso and the assistant, and they're on the plane over to England. And I literally said to myself, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle this show, because 5 minutes in, it's like, all right. And by the end of the first episode, I'm like, this is the most wonderful show.
I got to meet Coach Beard last year. Both he and Sudeikis came to Wrigley last year, but Coach Beard came up and I could say hi to him in the booth. It was cool at Wrigley.
He's the creator of the show, right?
He's one of the writers, yeah.
Yeah, great show. All right, Boogie, excellent job here today out of you. Are folks going to see you on television nationally anytime soon again?
I don't think so. Saturday with Dickie V was my last national TV thing for a little while.
How's that? He's still on his game? He's still doing a great job?
On his game, baby. Love him.
All right. Great job, Boog. Good seeing you, man. Appreciate it.
Love you, buddy.
I love you too, man.